Today on NewsWatch, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton come out swinging after their presidential debate set new records. Why both candidates say they won. Plus, a founding father of the modern state of Israel has died. Today we remember Shimon Peres and his enduring impact on history. And the threat to liberty. Frontline warrior Jay Sekulow talks about the left's war against religious freedom in America. Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Caitlin Burke. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are hammering away at each other on the campaign trail, launching fresh attacks after the most watched debate in U.S. history. As Dale Hurd reports, the two presidential candidates are both claiming victory.
In the aftermath of the historic presidential debate, both candidates were visiting key battleground states. In North Carolina, Hillary Clinton acted like a candidate taking a victory lap.
Did anybody see that debate last night? He made it very clear that he didn't prepare for that debate.
Early scientific polls indicated Clinton was the winner, but Trump claimed victory too, citing online polls that went for him.
Almost every single poll had us winning the debate against crooked Hillary Clinton, big league.
But Trump also complained about a faulty microphone and unfair questions from the moderator, Lester Holt of NBC News. Some of his supporters on social media complained that he didn't go for the jugular against a scandal-plagued Clinton.
I have a feeling that by the end of this evening, I'm going to be blamed for everything that's ever happened.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, why not?
Back on the campaign trail, both candidates were hitting each other hard on the economy, foreign policy, and their experience to be president. Clinton threw the first jabs, characterizing Trump as celebrating the housing crisis.
What kind of person would want to root for 9 million families losing their homes?
Trump fired back at a rally in Melbourne, Florida.
She traveled all over the world, and you know what it got us? Nothing.
But Trump got something from the debate, a lucrative bounce. He told his supporters Tuesday his campaign had raised nearly $18 million since Monday night's face-off against Clinton. It's still hard to say if the debate will help Clinton longer term in the polls, especially after more than a few days of mudslinging on the campaign trail. The scandal surrounding Clinton's emails still isn't over, and there are 2 more debates to go. With 6 weeks left till the election, there's still plenty of time for both candidates to win over undecided voters. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Israel has lost its most revered and controversial statesman. Former President and Prime Minister Shimon Peres died today at age 93. He suffered a massive stroke 2 weeks ago. Chris Mitchell has more on the man whose life spanned the entire history of modern Israel.
Born in Poland in 1923, Shimon Peres immigrated to Israel at 11 years old. And when Israel was reborn as a nation in 1948, Peres was there. And both critics and admirers will agree that for the next 7 decades, he played a major role in the country's leadership.
Shimon Peres has one of the most unique stories in Israel's history. He's been on the political scene for 70 years. He has a political life that's longer than Moses.
Peres is best known as the secret architect of the Oslo Accords in the early 1990s. It began the peace process between Israel and the Palestinians, and he won a Nobel Peace Prize with Yasser Arafat for his efforts. Historian and author Michael Widlansky said Peres will be remembered for the good and the bad.
His place in history is 2 huge successes and 2 or 3 huge mistakes. His huge success was that together with Ben-Gurion, he set up Israel's nuclear reactor and its nuclear program. His further success was in 1976. He, not Yitzhak Rabin, was the person who initiated the Entebbe raid in Uganda.
He began his career as an aide to Israel's first prime minister, David Ben-Gurion. He was a socialist who worked his way up the ranks of the left-wing Labor Party, which ran Israel for decades. Over the years, Peres would serve as defense minister, foreign minister, and prime minister 3 times, and finally as president, the highest ceremonial office.
His 2 huge failures. First of all, he was opposed to the Iraqi reactor raid by Menachem Begin in 1981. And his biggest failure is the Oslo Accords. The deal with the PLO, which he naively believed would bring peace to Israel, brought more harm, more terror than anything ever before.
CBN founder Pat Robertson interviewed Peres in his office in 1984. It seems some things haven't changed.
The U.S. and Israel have reached a new strategic understanding. How would you enlarge on those initiatives?
You know, everybody talks about American aid to Israel, but if you will compare what is the cost of the American presence in Europe or Japan or Korea, it's incomparable to what we are being given help. And on the other hand, to go together and try to bring peace to the area.
Widlansky and others describe Peres as a man of tremendous optimism and drive.
He did some great things for the state of Israel for which he should always be remembered positively. He tried hard, and he did it usually for the good of the state.
One way or the other, all would admit that with Peres passing, it's the end of an era in Israel. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
The battle for Aleppo is heating up in Syria with the ceasefire in shambles. Russia and the Syrian government are waging an all-out siege over the city. The last few hours have seen some of the most destructive bombing in the last 5 years. Residents are trapped inside and dozens are dead. If government forces capture the rebel-held neighborhoods, it could mean a turning point in the war and a big win for Assad's regime. Pakistan's military has arrested 7 militants accused of carrying out attacks on both a Christian group and a courthouse. One civilian was killed when 4 gunmen took over a Christian colony, and 12 people died when a suicide bomber struck the town of Mardan. The attacks were reportedly planned from Afghanistan, and a breakaway Taliban group has claimed responsibility. The White House announced Tuesday President Obama's pick for the first U.S. ambassador to Cuba in more than 50 years. His name is Jeffrey De Laurentiis, and he's currently the top diplomat at the recently reopened U.S. Embassy in Havana. However, that nomination may not make it through Congress. Senate confirmation is required, but some Republican senators oppose Obama's decision to normalize relations with Cuba, and they've promised to block any ambassador nomination. Alabama's Chief Justice is in court today, answering accusations that he tried to block gay couples from marrying. Chief Justice Roy Moore is accused of telling Alabama's 68 probate judges to refuse marriage licenses to gay couples. Moore denies the accusation. A judicial panel will determine if he was in defiance of the U.S. Supreme Court ruling on same-sex marriage. If found guilty, he could be removed from office. Coming up, there's an assault on freedom happening around the globe and here at home. Jay Sekulow joins us to explore this growing threat. America faces threats like never before, both foreign and domestic. From the hardline Islamic regime in Iran to the radical left in the U.S., liberty is increasingly at risk. CBN's Heather Sell spoke with Jay Sekulow of the America Center for Law and Justice about those threats, starting with the Islamic invasion of the U.S. government and legal system.
There's concerns here, and especially about Sharia law here. Where do you see the influence at this point?
So here's what you've got. I mean, when the Islamic Revolution took place in Iran, the idea was to have this Sharia compliant society, which they did in Iran by having this revolution. But the idea was never to limit it to Iran. They wanted to export that revolution. And of course, ultimately exporting it to the United States would be their biggest win. So they do it pretty clandestine. They'll bring up Sharia law in the context of a domestic dispute between a Muslim man and a Muslim woman. Or they'll bring it up in even in a criminal case, where in the United States, if someone strikes their spouse, they are subject to assault and battery laws. Well, what some Muslims will do as a defense, well, they will raise that under their faith, they're allowed to strike the woman 3 times. And they will use this basically Sharia defense. Some courts have given it at least more than lip service. So what happened in England, if we look at our cousins in England, and what's happened there is, well, they have Sharia-compliant courts going on. That same approach is exactly what they're doing here in the United States. And here's what they'll say. They'll say Sharia law is completely compatible with the United States Constitution. Now think about that for a minute. The Sharia law is completely compatible with with the United States Constitution because they know that under our constitutional process, you can amend the Constitution. So when they say it, they mean it. They know the system, so they will try to utilize our own freedoms and liberty against us. So it's a real threat. You've got this unholy alliance going on right now between Russia and Iran, which makes the world a more dangerous place. But the ultimate goal for the Iranians is to export their version of Islam, which is Shia Islam, to the rest of the world.
You know, David Brody has a report on today talking about Huma Abedin and Michelle Bachmann saying, look, this woman was editing a journal that was promoting this. Do you see that as a concern?
Well, this is exactly what they do. So the number one consultant, the number one advisor to Hillary Clinton is Huma Abedin. Huma Abedin's mother and father run a radical Muslim journal that have attacked the West, has attacked Israel. She was on the masthead of that for over a decade. And we're supposed to say that's nothing wrong with this, that this is okay? This isn't okay. And is that the person you want whispering into the ear of the President of the United States?
Wow. Now, I was caught off guard last week by the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights issuing a report, the chairman saying that religious liberty is code for racism, homophobia, discrimination. Didn't hear a lot of outcry about that. Like, how concerned are you about that?
Look, I'm concerned with the entire way the left, whether it's the commission or others, that are starting to talk about you have the freedom to worship, but they don't talk about the free exercise of religion. As if you can worship in your own church, synagogue, wherever your religious institution is, but don't take that faith outside of into the marketplace. So when they say freedom of worship, that is code word for we don't mean religious freedom. So I'm very concerned that you start painting people with religious beliefs and practices as if they're subversive to the American Republic, and you treat them like they're asbestos in the ceiling tile. If you get near them, you're going to be contaminated. And that's kind of the view that our government, this is a position we're advocating at the UN, when I say we, the United States. And this is repulsive to what our founders envisioned with the idea of free exercise of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of assembly. I mean, this is all part of who we are, and they're turning it upside down on its head. And I'll tell you something, when you start undercutting religious liberty and religious freedom and try to say if you believe in real religious liberty and a robust environment where religious beliefs and faiths and practices are welcome to the marketplace of idea, if all of a sudden that's a negative, liberty is removed. And when liberty removed, what's the United States then without liberty?
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. Chuck Colson made the argument before he died in 2015 that if you take what you're saying, if you take away religious liberty, then everything else is undermined. He felt like that was the best way to make the argument.
Well, I think Chuck was absolutely right. I talked to Chuck about this over the years, and you take it a step further. I mean, I think Chuck would be shocked today to see where it's actually gone, because they are using code language. I mean, we need to be clear. When they're saying we want to protect your freedom of worship, they are not protecting freedom of religious liberty. That is a code word for something else.
All right. We'll talk about the IRS for a little bit. You've been heavily involved in the investigation of that and how the IRS was playing around with conservative groups. Where are things at this point in time?
Well, we have won a huge case just last week. 3-judge panel, the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia, right under the Supreme Court of the United States, ruled in our favor unanimously that what the IRS was engaged in, we made a prima facie case of showing that the IRS was engaged in not only statutory violations, but unconstitutional action by viewpoint discrimination, targeting groups that they disagreed with. And that's what the IRS was doing. So we got a 3-judge panel to agree with us, takes the case back down to the district court, and the district court, in our view, has to issue the injunction. And that injunction tells the IRS, stop. It was interesting. One of the judges during the oral argument said, the lawyer from the Department of Justice representing the IRS said, the government submits that the IRS has stopped this and fixed this problem. And the judge said, do you expect us to believe, after everything that's come out, do you expect us to believe that the IRS is not doing this any longer? My fear is that they're still doing it. It may be a little bit under the radar, but I just picked up a case a couple of days ago, got contacted by a major organization where they're under scrutiny. And I believe that scrutiny, again, is part of this targeting. But by going to court and by going to federal court and winning at the Court of Appeals, we have sent a huge message to the IRS. My message is they're institutionally incapable of self-correcting. I think you got to scratch the Internal Revenue Code, build the IRS over from the ground up. My first job out of law school was Chief Counsel's Office of the IRS. The very office I'm litigating against was the office I first went to work with in 1980, a long time ago.
But you think it's so corrupt now that we need to start over?
Yeah, because when I was there, the fact was I don't recall a political conversation. And my office handled tax exempts, among other things. And I don't recall a political conversation, not one. Yet now, this was not just a conversation. This is a train of emails. It's the FBI, the Department of Justice, the Federal Election Commission, all in cahoots with each other, and I suspect the White House too.
Wow. You've just won, on a positive note, a major school prayer case in Illinois. Tell us a little bit about how that came to be.
Well, it wasn't our case, but the situation in Illinois is the ACLU is engaged in, and you don't hear about it as much anymore because they've been so unsuccessful. Any attempt at a student or anybody else engaging in prayer, they treat it as if it's unconstitutional speech. Now, we have argued for 30 years successfully that when students or others or a coach or engages in a statement, that statement should be protected. They're not compelling everybody to agree with them. They're just saying, this is my view, this is my belief, this is what I'd like to do. So the ACLU, I don't know why they're still doing this. They're not successful generally in these cases. They do this, I think, to motivate their base. But why in this day and time, in the world we live in, is that the base you want to be motivating? Is that what you want to motivate your base with? A coach or a student or someone else engages in a prayer at a sporting event or at a graduation ceremony? That's a constitutional crisis? Now, I'll give you a constitutional crisis. It's not that. It's government targeting. That's a constitutional crisis. It's not calling terrorism terrorism. That's a constitutional crisis. But this is the ACLU. Every once in a while, they try to make their point. And they're not successful in these generally. And if they win at the lower levels, they usually get overturned in the Court of Appeals. And I don't even think at the Supreme Court they have a very sympathetic ear right now. Having said that, the Supreme Court literally in this election is hanging in the balance.
There's a lot going on to talk about. Jay Sekulow, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Up next, when Islamic terror steals dozens of lives in the Philippines, see how one man is overcoming evil through God alone. A recent terrorist bombing in the southern Philippines prompted the country's president to demand that all U.S. troops leave the area. Some officials say the Americans are needed to help combat the Islamic militants. One bomb victim says he only needs God to help him overcome the terrorist evil. Lucille Tolucin has that story from Mindanao.
Just days after Philippine President Duterte pledged an all-out war against terrorism, Islamic militants bombed his hometown city of Davao.
People were having their massage in this area when the bomb exploded here on that fateful night. And one of those grieving over the death of 15 innocent victims is Christian church worker Dennis Larida, who lost his wife and their only son in the blast.
Larida recounts instead of going to sleep, he, his wife Melanie, and their 12-year-old son Josh went to the night market for a massage. What would have been a lovely time of family bonding turned into tragedy.
I cannot explain the pain that I feel. It's very painful. But I'm not questioning God. I know it is His will for my wife and son to be in the glory of the Lord. I thank God for the strength that He is giving me.
After the incident, President Duterte immediately sent soldiers and police to secure the southern conflict areas. The blast occurred amid an ongoing peace process with Muslim militants in southern Philippines. In a controversial statement, Duterte ordered U.S. troops to leave Mindanao. He says the American presence could jeopardize the peace negotiations. Many Muslims of this area, known as Moros, blame Americans for a massacre that occurred here in the early 1900s. National Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana disagrees. He says the Americans are needed to help defeat Islamic terrorism.
I think we requested them to stay behind there to manage to provide us with the ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance.
The Filipino military says it will safeguard the people from terrorism, regardless of whether the Americans leave or stay.
We don't have the sophisticated gadgets and armaments, but what is important is the person behind those gadgets. It is our mandate to protect the Filipino people, and our soldiers are willing to pay that ultimate sacrifice, giving up their life for the safety of everyone and for others to live.
It might help somehow to put a stop to these rebel groups and have a common understanding that we are from here, we will build our place better for us to enjoy. Not all the things that we want to solve for ourselves can be solved with the presence of the U.S. troops here. We can prove ourselves that we will do it in our own way by God's help.
Meanwhile, families of innocent victims try their best to rise above their difficult circumstances. Lerida has now discovered God's purpose and is moving on with his life.
I will terribly miss my family, but I also thank God. Because of what happened, I am able to spread the gospel throughout the world because of our testimony. If I meet the people who did this to my family, I will share the gospel to them because who knows, they will be saved. The death of my wife and son are not in vain. Someday, we will see each other in heaven.
Lucille Talusan, CBN News, Davao, Philippines.
Thousands of Christians continue to flee from their homes across the Middle East, and Operation Blessing is there to offer them support. OB is supporting 350 children by providing them with nutritious food. They're also working with Manara Ministries in Jordan, providing school supplies, clothes, and bedding to refugees. You can find out more on Operation Blessing by going to their website at ob.org. That's it for now on CBN NewsWatch. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care about most at cbnnews.com. And tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here. You can do that on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.